Hey, good morning, Ryan Whip from here. So right now I am coming out of Franconia Notch, just past the site where the man on the mountain was. We're up here doing a Walmart job. When we made the trip up, it was dark out, so you couldn't really see any of your surroundings. The guys, who had never been up this far north before, the Mexicans, the couple of employees, they'd never been up here, never been up Mount Washington. So, you get all the way up here and you don't realize what you drove through to get here. So the next day comes and we got to go do the Walmart, but we had some time to kill. So went over to Mount Washington and I took them up Mount Washington. And we got to see the sights up there. Unfortunately, it was only open up into the 4th mile because I guess they had like 17 inches of snow last week up there or something. So we go up to the 4th mile and then they parked. They were working on the road and they opened it like another half mile, so they let us go up. So it was cool. But to see how excited the guys got as we're driving around, everybody's in the window with their cameras, and it's like, it made me remember when I started driving trailer truck for FW Web in the beginning of my journey as a young man. And I get my CDL, and at first I was just doing local job site deliveries, and then one of the route drivers moved on, and I asked for his job and they gave it to me, and I became a route driver and just delivering pipe to all the other FW Web stores throughout New England. And the way that they had the schedule set up, I would do a delivery to each store once a month, maybe twice a month. So, but when I first started driving coming up here, I would see things like this, like that scenery out there, the mountain-esque. This is like before cell phone pictures, folks. I got my CDL when I was in 98. So, I would come up here and my parents used to take me up to the White Mountains as kids. 98, we didn't really have cell phones yet, or at least ones with cameras. So I remember taking the picture, the Insta camera. They used to put Insta cameras in our glove box in case we got in a car accident. And I used the Insta camera, and I was taking all these beautiful pictures of my truck with the mountain in the background, and I loved it. I was, every day it was like, I can't believe I get to come up here and see this. And this is, I'm on 93 right now, coming out of the White Mountains, right? So, but if I wasn't here, I was over off of 89 in the Williston area, up in the Green Mountains. Or maybe I was on my way to Bangor. It was just beautiful scenery everywhere I went. And that wore off. I want to say after a couple of months, I didn't give a what it looked like out there. I was like, I gotta go to Rutland. I gotta go to Rutland again. Now if I had to take Route 7 over to Rutland and then come over Hogback Mountain, oh my God, that would be such a beautiful sight. And to me, it was like, it's Thursday, and I gotta go up in Rutland. Oh, this is kidding me. So, I haven't been behind the wheel of a big rig in 10 years, other than my own. And I definitely haven't been really up here other than a couple of jobs that we have done for some pickleball facilities. But coming back up here, going up to the White Mountains, getting up, even though we could only get so far up Mount Washington, but to see the scenery, it's I find myself, oh, look, taking pictures and trying to suck it all in, when for 15 years of my life, this was every single day. This is all I did every day, was run these hills and these roads. And it feels like it was yesterday, but thinking back of it, it's fucking 10 years, man. And that brings me to something else I'd like to bring up. If you have a business, if you're starting a business and you're running a business, and you're a young guy, young girl even, and you got children. My dad told me one time, you know, it's good that you got this business, but don't make the same mistakes that I made. I was always working. I never took time to slow down and I was just, as a man, you just go and you support your family. That's what you do. And if you're working a job at FWUp, driving a trailer truck, and you're running a seal coating business on the side, it can be hard to get to kids' softball games. It can be hard to be there, like, granted, I was home every night, like my kids saw me every night, but my wife took a lot of the responsibility, like, away from me. She always made sure that I didn't have anything that I had to worry about. All I had to do was work. All I had to do was focus on taking care of them. And honestly, if you need a person like that in your life, if you're trying to become successful, if you're trying to, like, launch something and get something off the ground, and you don't have a woman like that and you're stable, sorry. I'm sorry, but you are. Because a man can't make it without a good woman. Sorry. That's my opinion. I look back at my life now that my children are, my oldest is 27, my youngest is 17. They're all girls. They're all mama's girls, but they're all daddy's girls too. Mom will always win in a popularity contest, but dad will always win in a practicality contest. Meaning, if it's emotional, if they need support, if they need someone to listen to them and agree with everything they say, they go see their mom. If they need something fixed, if they need to be smacked in the face with reality, if they want blunt, brutal honesty, they come to their dad. They come to their dad. And coming up here, I took my kids up here. Like, this is a place that we vacation, and it's like I'm driving home and I'm just looking around, and I don't know, like, in my past life, if I was like a mountain man, I have these two feelings, right? That in my past life I was either a pirate.
Hey man, pull yourself together,
Kenny.
Or fucking a mountain man, because I love the water. I feel like I'm being called by the water. Now, maybe that means I drowned. I drowned. I die by drowning. I'm foreshadowing my own future here, or not. But I always feel like the water in the woods are where I'm supposed to be all the time. So when I come up here and I see, like, I see everything, I start to think to myself, like, man, I want to get everybody. I want to get my kids. I want to get my family, and I want to go on, like, a little vacation. I want to get everybody up here and take time to spend time with them, And it just sucks because you just realize, like, they are all older. They have lives. They don't want to hang out with me. And I get it. But I think that's why grandparents are so special in a child's life. If you've had a grandparent and you know how much that grandparent meant to you, how much attention they gave you, how much they spoiled you, how they never got tired of listening to you. That's what a grandmother does. That's what So as I get older, I'm not looking to have grandkids anytime soon, right? But as I get older, I start to realize, like, the key. And the key is, as a parent, you spend your whole life trying to take care of your family, right? Making sure that everybody has what they want, and that your family train stays on the track. But there's also issues or times where, you know, maybe the person in the house doesn't have that mindset, right? Maybe you go, I don't know what you're talking about, man. Right? We lived in a trailer. We had no money. My dad beat the hell out of my mom, and he definitely wasn't anybody to look up to. Okay, you got me. Well, then that's all the more reason for you to be a better dad. I had good parents, right? My parents loved me, but my parents were young. They didn't know what the hell they were doing. Honestly, they didn't know what the hell they were doing. You know, my mom was an alcoholic. So was my dad, for that matter. My mom was out messing around on my dad. That turned into a divorce. You know, at 8 to 10 years old, that ripped me and my brother apart. Like, you know, our family apart. We stayed close, but, you know, we just had a horrible childhood. You know, my mom took all the child support money and spent it on beer and her boyfriend and my brother, and she's trying to convince my brother and I, like, you know, making us sugar sandwiches and shit because we didn't have any food, like, you know. So when I found out that I was pregnant with Brooke, my oldest, I was 17. You know, her mom was 15, and I came home. I had moved to Michigan where I learned how to do this, and I came home immediately once I found out it was my kid, and because I knew what it was like to grow up without a parent. And I promised that I would be the best dad I could be to all my kids. I'm definitely not perfect. But you want to hear a good story about the first time I met my daughter, Brooke? So again, I lived in Michigan. I had to leave Massachusetts because I got myself into some trouble. And my dad and my uncle put me on a bus, and I moved to Massachusetts. I moved out to Michigan. Moved in with my Uncle Bob, where I learned how to seal coat, and my mom lived out there too, but she was really in no condition to take care of me, so my dad, you know, I'm lucky enough to have a great uncle. You know, I love the guy to death, everything the guy's done for me. But, that being said, I'm out, I'm gone. I find out after I left that you're going to have a baby. And I didn't honestly think it was mine. So after paternity, and I found out it was mine, I came home. And I went to Brooke's mom's house for the first time. And I'll never forget it. She was in like this... Oh man, this is going to make me cry. She was in like this overall, like Oshkosh bagosh type thing. She had like it was like a dark. Now, for me to remember this, you don't know, right? For me to actually remember this is wild because I don't have my memory is completely shot. So, and I see her, hi, you know, and her mom's like, here's Brooke, and like, hey, and she's kind of like sitting on the floor, and you know, she's kind of looking at me, doesn't know what's going on, but kind of looking at me like she knew who I was. This real like spiritual type connection. So her mom like went downstairs for something, and I decided like I'm gonna pick her up. I want to see my daughter, and I maybe was embarrassed to pick her up in front of her mom at the time. I don't know. But I was like, hey, Brooke. And I like scooped her down to pick her up under her arms off the floor. And I lifted her up in the air. And there was a beam that ran right through the bedroom. It was like a attic apartment or room or something. And there was like a beam, you know, a load-bearing beam that ran through the center of the thing. And so when I picked Brooke up, I like picked her up and I smacked her head on that me, and she starts fucking bawling. And yeah, I mean, I think that if there is a God, I think that he makes things like that happen so that you remember them. Because how many things have happened where something wild has popped off and now you have a story, and that story is what helps you remember that event. Like for me, I just have a terrible memory. I had a brain injury in my 20s, and ever since then my short-term memory has been a little messed up. But yeah, I mean, you know, you think back to that day, which wasn't really that long ago. It really wasn't. And then you look at today, and it's like I was on TikTok and I did something where you put your video, yourself up, and then your AI older self comes in and confronts you.
Look, I like my bitch, red bone, ass fat.
And I'm like, usually I don't mess around with stuff like that, but I was like, oh, I gotta see. And it was like, oh my God, like, I'm old, but I don't feel old. And that's a problem. And that's my point to everybody out there, that's if you're growing a business and you have a family, take the time, just slow the fuck down. A day isn't, you're not, I know in the grand scheme of things, right? In the grand scheme of things, when you got stuff going on, you got stuff going on. You know, it's hard to just take a day that you were planning on going to do something else and say, no, you know what? Today I'm doing this with my kid. But you gotta do it. You gotta do it. You will thank me. You know, if you go back and look at my YouTube or TikTok from years ago, my daughter going to college, her first day at college, and that was a hard day. Brooke, my oldest, I didn't have her with Cheryl. You know, she lived with her mom, and her mom did an awesome job at raising her. But I didn't get included in a lot of things. It's fine. I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying, like, you know, nobody asked me, hey, do you want to come move your daughter into college on the first day? Like, I would have loved to have done that. You know, like, there's a lot of, like, weird little things that, like, as a second parent or the non-custodial parent, I don't think it's intentional. Like, I don't think anybody did it to intentionally leave me out or make me feel like I wasn't involved. But I can definitely tell you no time was given or thought was given into maybe he would want to be part of this, you know. And I look at that with all of my kids, you know, as my daughters get older. I just am very thankful and lucky that I have the kids that I have. I have great kids. And, you know, I just wish that I had small kids again. I look at Joe, some of the younger guys on the crew, and I tell them, like, you guys don't understand how lucky you are to have those little kids. Joe just had a baby last week, and we were all up here working, and he was kind of joshing with us through text messaging. Oh, you know, you know, when he saw that we were up on the White Mountain, on top of Mount Washington, and he's just like, you know, because Joe would normally be here with us for that, but Joe took an early layoff because he had a baby and he needed to be home to help Jericho with taking care of his family. He's got a big family now, and, you know, he's like, said something to the fact of, I'm, you know, right now, I'm, you know, trying to get Leon to eat macaroni and cheese and stopping the other one from sticking a crayon up their nose or something like that, you know? And I put myself in that moment, right? I put myself in that spot, and I remember thinking, like, man, I remember when my kids were annoying, when they did shit like that to annoy me. Well, they weren't trying to annoy me, but they just were doing stuff, and it was just like, come on, eat, or stop putting fucking crayons up your nose. What are you doing? And then, and that was annoying to me, right? That was frustrating to me because they're not listening to me. They're not eating their mac and cheese. They're not putting their crayons away. But I would give anything. I would give anything to have that moment back where I could sit and watch my kids eat macaroni and cheese, stick crayons up their nose. I would love that. But time goes by so fast. Before you know it, you turn around and it's like, it's over. It's over. You got a 27-year-old, right? You got a...
Incoming call. Press Uconnect phone button to answer.
You got a daughter... You got a daughter who... Sorry, Cheryl. Hold on. So, it's it's one of those things where you want to take the time, slow down, enjoy your kids, enjoy them, because honestly, man, they're not gonna be small forever. Cherish the moments, take pictures, take videos, get their voice. You know, I see these videos that pop up on Facebook, and honestly, it's like I cry because, you know, they're just such wonderful little people, and I would give anything to have them tiny in their little nightgowns doing the monster mash in my kitchen again. So, yep, as I look at myself in the mirror and I see myself getting older, if somebody said to me, what advice can you give somebody that's younger, who may be starting out on their professional path in life? What's one thing that you wished somebody had sat you down and told you? And I could say what I wish, but somebody did sit me down and tell me this. My dad sat me down and told me this. And he told me, son, don't make the same mistake I did. Take time to smell the roses. I miss so much of your brother and you growing up because I was too busy working. And he was really down on himself for that. And in my mind, I thought, I completely understand. You know, when you got to go out and do a parking lot and your wife's leaving to go to a softball game, or your daughter's playing softball at 7 o'clock, but you got to get up and be in Bangor for 5 a.m. So you can go watch it, but you can only go for like the first 3 or 4 innings. A little kid doesn't understand that. And I wish that I understood that more as a man when my kid was that age. Because I don't want my kid to think that, like, well, you're only important enough to stay for half. Or, you know, one thing is consistent. The 3 daughters that I have with my wife and the 1 daughter that I don't. It was consistent at least. At least my oldest daughter didn't look over and go, well, why is he at their softball games, but he couldn't come to my softball game? My kids got an equal dose of their father not being around. And I am circle back, Saki. I am circling back to the beginning of this video where I said, if you don't have a good wife, if you don't have a good woman at home, managing your house, taking care of your kids, making your life easy so that all you have to do is focus on what you have to focus on, then you're doomed. If you have a wife who, despite...
Press Uconnect phone button to answer.
If you have a wife that, despite all of the efforts that you put in, is still nagging you for not being home or guilt-tripping you for leaving to go on a business trip, that ain't the type of... That's not the woman, man. That's not the woman. A woman's gonna... the right woman is gonna support you. She's gonna lift you up, and she's gonna make you be the best person that you can be. And I'm very lucky to have somebody like that in my life, because she is the reason that our kids are so well put together. And I'm very thankful that, for me, as a guy who drove a truck, started a side business so that his wife could stay home and raise their kids. To me, I think, although it's nearly impossible to do nowadays, it's the world was a better place when the wife could stay home and raise the kids. And I know that my oldest daughter, who's fucking, yay, feminism, right? And she's probably, if she saw this, would think to herself, well, the woman doesn't need to, it's like, yeah, all right. It is, I'm not trying to say that women don't deserve to work and that a woman's not capable of supporting. Throw all that bullshit out, okay? As people, as humans, we are pack animals. We need to be in a pack. We don't feel right when we're not in a pack. And when you are in a pack, you're going to have the alpha dog, and then the alpha watches the pack. But the lioness, the mother, she makes sure that everybody's fed. She hunts the food. Yeah, folks. Yeah. Yep. In the animal kingdom, the mom hunts the food. The father sits there and watches the mother make the kill. What's that tell you? So, that's all I got. I often have these times where I leave my family for a couple of days, and then I reflect on how much my family means to me. And I think that that's healthy. And I think that everybody should do that. And I think that if you're able to leave your family for a few days and not be happy, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry. If you can leave your family for a few days and be happy, it feels like it's a vacation, you're in the wrong relationship, man. You really are.